7:12. All rise for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Bridges?
Here.
Mr. Eckert?
Here.
Mr. Hooksma?
Here.
Mrs. Hooksma is
Excused.
Mr. Kenyon?
Here.
Mr. Corbett?
Don't know.
And Mr. Reeves is here, and Randy.
Excused. He called me earlier. He wasn't back yet. Let's see. Approval of agenda of March 4th, 2015 as presented. Everybody got a copy of the agenda? I would like to add under new business B, DDA skating rink. Anybody else have anything? And then I move we accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move on to approval of the minutes of January 7th. I really didn't have a lot. Then I go ahead and I make the motion that we approve the minutes of January 7th, 2015.
I'll second.
Second McKinnon. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any public comment? No public comment? Okay, moving on.
There we go.
I don't have any correspondence at this time. Committee reports, I have those at this time, and unless somebody has old business, we're gonna skip right on to new business. DDA Planning Commission, as some of you may know or may not know, the village council is investigating whether or not to proceed with combining the DDA and the Planning Commission. And there are separate rules, and essentially the DDA would be no more. They would appoint people to be on the DDA, or on the Planning Commission, from my understanding. Am I understanding correctly?
The duties will be combined, yeah. And the way the ordinance reads right now is there's 5 members, 2 of which can be outside of the village, and 3 have to live within the village.
So what happens to those that live, obviously right now we have at least 3 members that live outside the village.
Well, they wouldn't be formally on unless they want to be. I mean, I only have 3 names at this point in time.
So if we're on the DDA now, we're not gonna get automatically appointed to the Planning Commission, from my understanding.
The way I understand it.
Yeah, fellas.
For it.
Sorry the wife you wasn't feeling good, so I had to fix your dinner for your wife.
So does that cover, we talked about it before, but like for business owners, it's a place of residence, a home residence?
The DDA, you had to have some interest, whether business ownership or living in it, or whatever.
Or
The
working
planning
for a
commission,
business in the downtown district too.
Yeah.
the planning commission rules would take precedent over the DDA. And there would be 2 members outside of the village that could be appointed, and 3 within the village. And beyond that, the duties are combined. There's no separate meetings, it's all one continuous body. You don't have to have a planning commission meeting, then adjourn it, and then have a DDA meeting, and then adjourn it. It's all one. You act for one, and those 5 members act for one. I don't think there's any reason that if you've been on the planning commission board or on the DDA board, you don't get appointed to the planning commission, but there's nothing to prevent you from going to meetings and volunteering your time. like you would here, so, I mean, nobody's getting paid for all of this, so.
So there would be 5 members are on the planning commission.
The way it's designed right now, it is 5, but we can change that. This can go up to, I think, 9 or 11, something like that. I would think 7 would be max.
And how many are on now on the planning commission?
There's currently 2 active on, we've had 2 or 3 resignations, and we're waiting for all of this to come together before I would appoint 5 or 7, whatever we end up with. And
If I may, I think it's good to look at that number, whatever it ends up being, to be a healthy number, for the business representation of the town. And I don't have a business, I just have a care and concern, I can volunteer and all, but, actual business owners or people that, you have employees, and people in the town that live and work in the town to have the voting rights. Pretty much, that's being on the committee gives you that voting rights to work work on a project, to approve certain things that go on and actually have pretty much the authority to do it instead of just putting the time in it. So I think it is key that those involved people, business owners, residents in the village, so it probably should be expanded, because there's probably some outlying people that would also have a little bit, but yeah.
well, the way the law reads, there's only 2 outside of the village that can be appointed, whether it be a 5-member or 7-member or 9-member.
Right, it doesn't go up with each
Right.
group, it stays that.
There's just the 2 outside.
I have 2 concerns with doing the whole thing, and one of them you touched on was the business representation. I think that, and actually I've got some documentation to back it up a little bit, the businesses get kind of lost in the shuffle. Right now, the businesses can be part of the DDA, you just have to have an interest in the downtown area, there's no residency requirement.
Right.
So, I mean, if you look at who owns the businesses downtown, who's responsible for paying the taxes on those businesses downtown, you go right down the line, and I don't know how many of them are inside the village actually, but Jiraco's, the pharmacy, Tom's, I think Bill's in town, Michelle doesn't live in town, I live in town, Andy and Marcy don't live in town, Classic doesn't live in town, Randy doesn't live in town,
Right.
the owners of the bank don't live in town. And a lot of those people that work there don't live in town. So right now, we've just taken this big old pool of people and people that may be interested in helping out their downtown. And you're just shrinking it to your annual residency requirement. And they still have to pay the taxes in the town, they just don't live in town. So, I mean, I've got some issue there. And I do have some documentation that shows that the experiences of another community were that the businesses kind of lost their voice when they combined the planning commission and the DDA. So, and that's my big issue with doing this. And then the other is why. We've got a board of, right now we had our time tonight coming together, but we've got more than enough people here for a board. We can get more people. We've not been actively recruiting because we're not sure what's going to happen. Right now, I'm not understanding the reason why you'd want to combine them. I've heard the government's expanding and some of the other reasoning, and I just don't see, I'm trying to understand. So I'd like the reason why.
Well, my feeling is that none of us work in a vacuum. The decisions that the council makes affects businesses, residents, and everybody has an opportunity to come in and speak their mind, regardless of where they live. If they have an interest in the village, they can come in and do that at a council meeting. I just feel that to combine the planning commission and DDA, because we are so small of a community, that I think it would foster better communication rather than not.
With communication between,
All different parties within the village.
so that
The
the village council.
businesses have a voice called the Chamber of Commerce, and they've been in existence for 50 years. So,
Well, that's true, but the chamber's kind of a membership driven versus down an area driven by the area that we're containing.
And I
This is the
think
difference.
you're absolutely right on communication could be improved in town, amongst people that are in here and work and try to help out. I'd have to argue there are other ways to do it, especially considering that setting up, like the chamber is one thing, but it just goes back to me, the DDA being what it's set up to do. Yeah, you might have a hard time with members, it's been a year or whatnot, but you think 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you might not be your business anymore, and the person might live outside, but still wanna help out. And it might be other people working at the college, and there might be other people involved in town, and the DDA is so widespread and open, that when we went to recruit, we're like, wow, there's so many people that are available to be part of this board, and then the good that they can do down the road with TIF, with the stuff and the state that's set up, that it's such a good resource that to pretty much move it into another, roll it into another section, that takes away a lot of those, that residential, that piece there.
I understand that, but I think you gotta take into consideration the attrition rate that you've had in the past year. And there's some pretty key businesses that you have as part of this group who have left.
Well, we can't make people be part of a board.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so there are other people that could represent those people. The thing with business
Well,
owners is.
again, the reason that people left is they didn't like a decision that was made or something that happened. And the decisions can't be made to satisfy one person. So if they choose to leave because of that, that's certainly their choice. And I have no problem with that, but you can't sit there and say, well, the other 5 have to vote with them, so we don't lose people. You have to do what's right for the community and the village. I think there's a win-win here, though. I think that there's an opportunity, one of the biggest problems you have in a small village is getting enough people to just volunteer, period. If we have an ongoing DDA, and we need people for the planning commission, I think it would be a better idea to ask people that are on the DDA to join that and still keep them separate, where you can get more volunteers. And now you've got more people working for the same interests. And now you've got a place where people that are business owners can partake in it. It just kind of widens the margin of volunteers you can get.
The DDA is trying to plan the future development for the downtown. And the word planning commission is doing the same thing. You're gonna have the left hand and right hand, plus the council doing something different. So I think what it is, if you only have 2 entities, and who cares if we have to vote on a zoning thing or something, you know, as far as the planning part of it. But the point is I think you're a little off as far as why people left. Right?
Why do they?
Okay, some left because of disorganization. Some left because of committees having committees and then not having any committee reports.
Well, that wasn't in any of the letters when they resigned.
Of course they're not, they're being sweet when they left.
Well, I can't go by that. I mean, you know it.
No,
I think we
if
should be
you know
sweet
now,
when we
the
discuss
reason
it
they
then.
quit. You know, Bachman quit, she just got totally disgusted, she put this whole report together and then suddenly submarined her. You know, you can't, she did all this research and nobody knew she was doing, they asked her to do the research and then when she did the research, she got pooped. So then she goes, okay, I just spent 30 hours of my time to do all this research and you guys didn't even have a plan to even use whatever I was gonna use, so why even do it? So frustrated, she quit, right? Kelly, she was part of that thing where we were voting, right? Remember to put it off and everything else? She heard it. Everybody else heard it. I said it, right? And he poo-pooed it and said that no, nobody ever said it and I don't remember it, right? Somebody didn't write down the minutes. You know, I know what I said. I had two witnesses that were right there when I said it.
Okay.
All right. And so those two were gonna quit because of that. Yeah, they just went, okay. And then we had, you know, some of the stuff, in other words, when you had a meeting, you would have it to where, one segment of the group brought their ideas and they had done some homework and everything else, and they wanted to hurry up and get a vote on that. And I don't much blame that, because what happened is the other end of the group was kind of laying down and not getting anything done. And so, any organization, I don't care if it's a church, any organization I've ever belonged to, of the 100 members, let's say, there's only probably 10 really active participants.
Right.
10 you can drag out if you've got some event going on.
Right.
And what it is we don't have 8 people. You know, we don't have 10 people that can, you know, it's not like all these people have all this extra time to do stuff in this town. You know, it's hard enough even to get anybody to run for the board of supervisors. You know, so, because of course you get in there and you get bashed and all that kind of stuff. In a small town like that, it's taken more personally than it would in a town
Right.
like 10,000. You know, everybody can take a little bit of ass whipping, a little bit of criticism, that kind of stuff. Here, it's, my God, everybody takes it so personal, it's crazy. And then a lot of people live on rumor and not the fact. And so, some disorganization things, some, you know, having minutes not even prepared for a meeting, having, oh, I didn't get the time to do this, I didn't do that, I've been really busy, I've been doing this, I'm doing that. And then all of a sudden you don't get a quorum the next time. And so, I would rather have 5 committed people in the small town of the small pool that we have to deal with. That's what I'm saying. And both those things are so tied together, planning and the DDA, I don't see what the problem is. You know, if
I'll be
somebody's
honest with you,
concerned-
I don't see a real problem with it either. But I think that those that are on the DDA now, if we can come together with 2 that live outside and 3 that live in, would they have a priority on being appointed to the planning commission?
And I'm all for, I mean, here's what I
I
would.
mean, there are a lot of people that put a lot of time in and would like to.
I'd much rather, because of my committed schedule and the stuff that I do, I'd much rather come volunteer and do 2 projects a year for you than sit around the meeting and play with my bud. Yeah, I mean, it just,
And that's your personal,
yeah,
what you like to do, yeah.
yeah, if I wanna get things done, I'm not a meeting guy. You know, if I got the meeting to do with, then go do it, you know. Implement it.
So, I mean, I can appreciate your, those concerns that they brought up, and I think that we've all been to meetings for the past, 10 months, 12 months, some of us more or less. 18 months. Growing pains. I mean, it's young
Why
organization.
don't we just find out who wants to be on it? How's that?
Well, what I'm saying is, some of those things were growing pains for the organization getting DDA up and going, but, I still think it's got some good merits, but, to set it up for the future, I guess maybe that's just my view on it, that we really need to keep it set up for the future, that when the landscape changes and the people come and go, that we didn't take away, the DDA's ability to do what it needs to do downtown, its mission. Unless, which I don't know if it was brought up in the meeting before, that they can always go back, that the DDA could vote to restore them itself and get that
The
approved.
village council would have to do that.
Yeah.
The council has, the council has jurisdiction over both bodies.
But the council,
Well, let me ask you a question. Would your wife be on the planning commission, or would you be willing?
I'd be willing to, if that's
You
the way
think
they
your
do
wife
it.
would be interested?
Probably not,
Okay, so.
but she would if it was the DDA.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well,
there's a difference.
if we had 1, 2, 3, 4, would you go on to a planning commission, or would you do your little special stuff instead of
I like
playing
to be
with
special.
it? Okay, so we have 1 more spot.
Well, they've already got 2 people on.
Well, but he said he can go to 7, which means we can have 5 more.
I
If
think,
you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 1 more person, we've got the 7 people. Would that work for you, or
That works for me.
you wouldn't have a problem with that? I see a lot of merit in doing it that way. I kind of agree with what you're doing.
I don't see where, if it's set up with planning commission / DDA, why there should be any non-function of the DDA. That body's gonna deal with the same issues that everybody else is dealing with. I don't,
I think we have some communities have tried it and it hasn't worked out that well. Business owners have lost their voice from past experience, so that would have to be seriously
Well, what
considered.
kind of voice are you looking for?
Well, some of us as business owners like to have a say in what's going on in our downtown. I mean, that's really,
Yeah, but
What
no
it
matter what
boils
you
down to.
say, it doesn't matter. The council has to vote for it.
well, but it should,
Some
it should
things.
matter to the council, what we say. I mean, we should
Why
have a big
wouldn't
recommendation on that.
Why wouldn't it?
Well, there's just things that we were looking to work on that nobody had worked on prior to it.
What I'm saying is, you can probably name, I hate to say this, you can probably name as many DDAs that went belly up just for non-participation than you could, and there's probably more of those than the ones that didn't work. And if you're
Do you
part
have
of,
an example? Because I don't know of one
what?
that you folded, DDA.
Not after established.
Oh, not folded, but.
Well, you said they went out of business, they,
Well, went to sleep for frickin' 20 years, or 10 years, or 15 years, you know what I mean? I mean, the point is, is gonna be as good as the current members that are in it. And it's only gonna be good for a few years of even those members. Because it's kind of a said thing, and it seems in this community. You got people that have been president of the Chamber of Commerce, right? That don't do anything with Chamber of Commerce anymore. They said, why spend my 3 years in?
Right.
When did you spend your 3 years in? 12 years ago.
Yeah.
The truth is in a small town like this, there has to be continuing participation for your whole life. I hate to say it.
Right, so we
Right.
shouldn't limit the people that can participate.
So what I'm saying is, you might as well have the ones that have the spirit to do it. And then if you lose somebody, you replace another one with somebody who has the spirit to do it for a couple of years. Because that's all you're gonna get out of them anyhow, you know?
Right, you're correct, so why limit the people that can be a part of it if they're gonna
Why,
change over?
I don't understand where all these limits are.
The residency requirement, there's a lot of people that work in Central Lake that don't live in the village limits. So I mean, there'd be a limitation there, I think. It's just my 2 cents.
But then we do have, so I think some, communities that have tried combining the two or not.
This is from Bethany Pearson from the Northern Lakes. Just trying to put some feelers out there. Did a city called the city of Dryden. They do not have theirs combined regularly. According to this email. After putting this question out to various forums, discussing with leading downtown organizations, it seems that most people do not recommend going this route since the 2 boards are generally supposed to be performing 2 different functions. There was discussion regarding the voice of businesses getting lost under this model. Overall, there's not much information out there regarding this topic.
Now, who's writing this?
Bethany Pearson from Northern Lakes Economic Alliance. And then there's email down below from the city manager of the city of Pleasant Ridge.
Did you even look up how many DDAs went out?
Look up what?
How many DDAs went out of business just because they didn't?
I didn't look that up because
Why
how
am
do
I
they get
looking
qualified?
why am I looking this up if you're trying to get too into the?
I just do my research ahead of time to support the position I stand behind, I guess. I don't know. I didn't.
Well, how do you support another position? You don't know what the,
he supports the DDA staying, you support it not.
I did my homework.
So, yeah,
His homework's done.
yeah, like, yeah,
So, I mean, I look at it and I wonder about that. And then I also wonder that the planning commission is set stagnant for well over a couple of years. 2 years they've had a hard time having people on the planning commission. My wife started going to meetings and trying to figure out why, and they'd have 5 or 6 meetings about the placement of sheds on somebody's property and discussing boundary lines and stuff, which is all intriguing, but I can understand why they have a hard time actually getting somebody to join the planning commission.
why would a business owner try to that?
Well, why would I be interested in that? I mean, that's,
You wouldn't probably until you wanted to put a shed on your property. You couldn't do it without going to them, so that's kind of what happens with any of us here in this. Nothing really bothers you until something actually bothers you, and you go find out
Right.
what's gonna happen.
Right, and so to me, it just keeps going back to if we're setting up for the future, keep them strong, the DDA with its residential population, keep the planning commission strong with its people. If 2 or 3 people that volunteer for it, that are concerned about zoning and sheds, there's a dozen businesses, and between them and their workers, the DDA pulls their crop. That's all I want to say.
So, and I would like to know then what the DDA intends to accomplish.
Well, we've got a development plan, that was a rough outline of what we intend to accomplish over the next 5 years.
That being what?
Whatever the development plan said, I don't have it in front of me to read it to you, but there's 5 projects in there, there's 5 different areas. Went through how we're gonna fund them, how we were going to, in what order, and when we were gonna start working on it. I mean, it's laid out there, each individual thing.
So are you working in a vacuum with those 5 things?
No, actually, stuff's a little stagnant right now, we're waiting to see what's gonna happen with the DDA. I'm not interested in personally taking on any more projects till I know what's happening. I'm not gonna waste 60 hours, 30 hours of my time this month to try to push that ahead, but certainly not working in a vacuum.
So what you do impacts the rest of the community.
Sure. And we do it with cooperation of the village council, cooperation of the chamber if they so desire, and cooperation with anybody else that would like to come and help. And we communicate our intentions all the way along. We had a public hearing regarding that development plan and the TIF plan, so it was put out to the public. It was published in the papers, there was a TIF, a hearing on that. It was available for public inspection, so it's not a vacuum at all.
And
Yeah, but
those same functions can be performed as a DDA planning commission combined.
But, and
That's what I
they
mean.
probably could, but.
The only
some of
difference
these-
is your residency requirement. That's what you're fighting for, from what I'm hearing, is
Well,
two outside the village get to be a part of the planning commission, where right now you have no limit.
And I'm concerned
Right.
about the voice of the businesses that are in town. Right now, we have these businesses, but 4 years ago, we didn't. 3 years ago, we didn't. There's all new owners as of like 3 years ago for a majority of the businesses in town. So we're gonna take that away, and in 3 years, what's gonna happen when the people buy new businesses or a new building goes up, and they live outside of town, they're not gonna be able to participate other than going there and say, please do what we ask you to.
And I guess it's really, it's a 51%. Why change? Why change what's already set up? There's just not a strong argument, I guess is what I'm trying to understand, is it's not a.
The nicety of the DDA is you have a group of people looking at a very defined area and trying to improve it. And that area is what the community is known for, or what it looks like to outside people. So the more we can do in that 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 block area, to better that area, to better the whole community looks. So you got people specializing in a very small area to make it work better, to make it look prettier, they add things to it, you know.
To create.
Well, and right now, one of the complaints is our DDA meetings can last 2 hours. Easy. I mean, we can sit down and have a 2-hour meeting. What happens when we add planning commission duties on top of that? I mean, that's gonna be another half hour, 45 minutes on top of what we got going for DDA, the development plan. And then on top of that, the master plan has to be updated every, 2 or 4 years? And so that has to be done, and then there's I don't know what issues the planning commission takes on necessarily, issue by issue, but it's more to do with the.
Well, the other thing is this something that needs to be done right now? I mean, can we stretch 6 months or a year and see what happens to DDA and what happens to planning commission? I know there's people in here that would be more than happy to work on the planning commission as a separate, to increase those numbers. And we could just continue to have a DDA at the same time, and let's just see where it goes. I mean, if nobody wants to, if we can't replace the people we've lost, then there is absolutely no option on which way it has to go. It really becomes a non-decision.
Well, there was $14,500 budgeted for a combined DDA planning commission.
Okay.
12,000 of that was to hire someone to take care of all of the flowers, gardens, light poles.
$12,000?
$12,000.
Can I get that job?
Yeah, you could.
12,000.
You get paid $12 an hour for 20 hours a week from mid-April to mid-October. That's 6,000 of that, and the other 6 would to provide plants and whatever materials that person needs to do that.
It was like
Well, in the last DDA I was on, they went and got a group of people, and each one took care of certain areas, and they actually had a judging to see who had the nicest area. And it brought in,
In the downtown area.
well, they had 26 different areas.
Did we have that this year? We're supposed to take some,
We were supposed to have that this year, but it just stopped because,
why?
no, it was stopped. I was in the middle of putting it together and it was stopped.
It was proposed. and it wasn't, and nobody wanted to do it that way.
Okay, I think I missed the meeting,
I must have missed
when
that.
when I came back,
It was proposed.
it was decided not to do it that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the one I was in, everybody provided their own flowers, they watered them, they took care of them, it brought the community together.
How much did it
People
cost?
from outside came in and took care of their little areas. When they were here, they came and got an ice cream or got dinner. I mean, it just brought 26 more people in every week to take care of these areas, and there was no cost to the village or city. And I think that's really what we want to see happen, is not just get the job done, but find a way to bring the community in to do that and get to know our neighbors. And if you do that, I think then you're successful.
Does that sound good?
And it was fun, we used to have a blast.
There's a discord between the DDA and the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, I don't think that's on the DDA's part though. I don't think the DDA has any beef at all. I think the chamber felt that we were going to infringe on their areas. And there were areas where we weren't happy. In fact, we had talked about it. In fact, I don't think it was part of the meeting. But after we had talked to the previous village president, and during the car show, we had people running across the street back and forth. And it was very dangerous. And the village decided that they should close the street. And I thought it was a very wise decision, but I know that the chamber didn't like that. And the chamber kind of blamed us for instigating that. And I don't think we necessarily instigated, I think it was more conversation after this. But there was always that type of thing. And there's been no desire to work together. But most of the things we're working on don't take away from what they're doing. They should be able to work hand in hand.
They should. I agree with that.
Well, I don't think you're
I
gonna
think
find
the planning
anybody on
commission
the,
and the DDA ought to work hand in hand too.
well, I don't
I
think you'll
think
find
we will.
anybody on the DDA that has a problem with the chamber. I think what the chamber does is amazing. I think they do a wonderful job. It doesn't mean that we can't have people working on other things.
And a little bit like
The chamber isn't a DDA.
No, I
The
understand.
chamber kicks in all the businesses within an area. The DDA is a very concentrated area.
You can be outdrafted to be the Central Lake Chamber member and have a vote and a say in the chamber.
There's a distinct difference between a Chamber of Commerce, a planning commission, and a DDA. They all serve completely different purposes.
Right.
Even though the planning commission has to do with planning, and they may overlap a little bit, just like the chamber overlaps a little bit with the DDA.
Yeah.
It's, the chamber's beholden to their membership, to people who pay to be part of the chamber. It's a business network, it's an organization made up of other businesses, which is great. You can choose to be in a chamber or not in a chamber. That's completely up to whoever. A DDA is defined geographically. You're in the DDA district because it was set up by public hearing, and it was set up through government to capture taxes and to improve the infrastructure of downtown. The chamber doesn't have anything to do with infrastructure. They're not gonna take in a building, they can, if they wanna have a flower drive to help put up flowers, that's great. I mean, we should be working with the chamber. We should be, if you're gonna have an event or something, and we've got, at some point, it'd be nice to be able to figure out how to have a pot of money to be able, so they can get some money from us, and we'd be able to help fund some of their projects, fund the 4th of July, fund these things going forward. We talk about having this continuity for the next forever, and there's ways to do all this stuff, but it's gotta be, it's gotta be set up and done. Every time, it's a big sandbox, and everybody's just gotta play nice.
Like Chris mentioned, the personal, people took things personal, I think at the start of the DDA, between the DDA and chamber, some of their personnel that make ruling decisions within the chamber and that kind of changed the attitude, that maybe the DDA is coming in, like you said, taking over some things.
Well, they were left out of a lot of the conversations when Cruzy was there.
They were invited out for coffee, personally by me, to sit down and talk about this stuff. So they weren't left out of anything, they were invited actually to be part of.
Well, we had a member of the DDA that was.
On
On
the chamber.
yeah.
We didn't have it reversed,
Oh,
where
so it's
somebody
on
on the DDA was part of the chamber. So the communication went from the DDA to them with nothing coming back to us. So if there was a lack of communication, it was on their part coming back to us. Because we had a person sitting on our board that was part of theirs.
No, it was two sides.
Well, I mean, you can look at it if you want, but they had a person on our board that reported back to them on everything that we were
I know what
doing.
the DDA's arguments were, I know what their arguments were. And those people played like little kids. And nobody
Right.
sat down and had a conversation.
Like you
And
said,
it was stupid.
Well, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The point is that they did have a person on our board that told them what we were doing, and they were on top of everything we were doing. And we had nobody telling us what they wanted and bringing it back together. So maybe the answer to that is for them to put a DDA person on their board. But I think the main issue here isn't that. The main issue here is there any reason to do this now? Why don't we wait a year and see where it goes? I think it'll answer itself. And as far as the flowers go, give us the $12,000 and let us figure out how we can do the flowers. You know,
Lot of flowers.
I wouldn't never spend that much, and I try to talk the board into going back, saying, let's create this volunteer thing that brings people into town. We need to bring people into the city, the village.
Encourage participation, not limit it, that's how I feel.
Never heard so many arguments with two people that didn't even talk to each
Pardon me?
other. Between the, never saw so many arguments with two groups that never really talked to each other.
Oh, the-
Right. Like a perceives this and
Misunderstanding that, rumor this,
start,
bar talk here, and
I'll never talk in a bar, you say things you don't want to say.
Well, I think they were a little paranoid when we started the DDA, thinking that we were gonna take over things that they were doing. And I think that's why they insisted on having somebody on the DDA. But I was the first one, I voted for that, I was all for that, I thought that was wonderful for communications. But the problem, I think, was the communications only went one way. If they had somebody vice versa bringing back the information to us, then I think we would have worked together much better. And I think we have an issue now that we both need to figure a way to make it better, to work together. It isn't necessarily to eliminate something to make it work better. Sometimes you just have to sit them down in a room and say, work it out.
If that's one of the issues they're trying to solve by combining the planning commission and the DDA, I mean, that can be solved other ways, that's fine. We
Put our two little leaders in the room, let them box or something.
yeah, we can definitely have a get together and get this figured out.
I'm sorry, I know we've been talking, because we've been here a while with the DDA and setting it up, but Nancy, a little new, but,
Yeah,
Any two
I
thoughts?
had some questions or thoughts. Would the combining of the DDA and the Planning Commission bring back vital members of the DDA, specific specific into play? If the DDA and Planning Commission were combined, would they go, oh, okay, let's get back together, let's get
I've been told that there's a possibility of that, but I can't substantiate it. I mean,
and
that's
are
like
we,
hearsay, so.
are we vying for funding dollars also? Is that in your shoe?
Well, that $12,000 is gonna, I'll have to reevaluate that, because I'm gonna go back to the council and recommend something different, if that were to happen.
And
Was
then-
there anything in there for the DDA money?
There is a 14.5, about $2,500. And
So
I figured
to
if
specify-
grant writing was gonna be your emphasis, that should have covered your expenses in that regard.
So, there's $12,000 for flowers if it's a combined DDA planning commission, but there won't be $12,000 for flowers if the DDA stays separate from the planning commission. Is that what I'm hearing, or was I misunderstanding?
I will have to reevaluate my thoughts on that.
Wasn't that not placed in our budget?
Yeah, they haven't finished the budget for them yet.
The budget's been approved for a combined DDA planning commission, which we have not changed the ordinance to create that.
And the budget for that is?
For the combined is 14.5.
Okay.
And 12 of that is what I figured would be a half-time person, 20 hours a week, from mid-April to mid-October, and the other $6,000 for expenses to whatever that person needed to make the downtown look nice again, because for the last couple of years, it really hasn't. And that's reports that I have.
Well, last year's the first year we took care of it, and we did it based off one of those, based off of one of the members' recommendations, and it was a very cold year.
Right.
So, I mean, you're not gonna get beautiful flowers in a cold year, it's just not gonna happen, you'll get some.
well, I guess
Some of the Bel-Airs looked all very, they must have had a different temperature there.
Hey, it snowed June 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember looking out my office going,
yeah,
really?
but I don't think worrying about the flower piece is important. Because things are what they were or what they were last year, and they'll be what they are with this. It might end up needing more money for flowers next year or less, depending on how it works out. That's a committee talk anyways, that you probably wouldn't need to be worrying about those exact numbers, but it,
As far as I'm concerned, in looking at the DDA, and I served on the original Northern Lights Economic Alliance, I've watched for the last 25 years other communities do things. And the best thing that Central Lake could do is make their downtown just shine. And that would make a statement more than any other thing that you tried to do as a DDA, Planning Commission, or Council. As people walk through this town and they go, wow.
right.
We agree with you.
Well, that is the concept, that's what the DDA is supposed to do.
That's
And
what
I'll be
they're
honest with
doing.
you, since we started moving forward and breaking down into areas, and then we ended up stopping everything so that we could put together the,
Development plan.
Development
Because we
plan.
have a development plan.
and everything stopped. And when we went to do that, there was a separation within the DDA of some people that were on the DDA, and my beliefs are they never really wanted it to go, they were just there to slow things down. Because we spent 9 months going over the same things over and over and over again. And they kept voting that, well, let's do this and let's do that. And when it came to a chance, when the village called you and said, you know, bring the paperwork down, we want to put it on agenda, it wasn't our option on when they vote on it, it was their option. And they said, do it, and we did it. So, I mean, we can have people that are unhappy on the DDA that it happened that way, but it isn't our option, never was our option. Okay, and if they left because of that, I'm sorry that, you know, they were thick enough skin to live through that one. Because we lost some very good people.
Yeah.
And I'm very sorry that happened, but my way isn't the way, it's the board's way.
I think it was, the people I've talked to that resigned, was they just didn't think there was any true direction, right?
Well, I think they made sure there wasn't any true direction. I think they talked
That's a discussion
talking about
for-
stuff over and over and over again, and, I mean,
You can't
what we
shut-
did in the last 9 months, I could have done in 30 days.
No shit.
Well, well, there you go.
I mean, I don't know the way to put it, but,
Yeah.
yeah, everything takes too long. Everything
Well,
takes too long.
and there are ways to do things and ways not to, and you can talk about it all day long, but eventually somebody's gotta get to work. And there was an awful lot of talk, and every time we come back with something saying, okay, we got it, oh, well, we need to do this now. Well, you could've said that a month ago and we'd
Yeah,
had it
but
done.
you can't hand somebody a sheet of paper 2 minutes before a meeting and go, this is what our agenda is tonight, or, we don't have one tonight,
No.
or we,
I don't think
these are the.
No, I don't think that
Here's the
happened.
deal, any organization I've ever been to that had their act together with a group is, let's say the minutes prior to the meeting. That, a week in advance, you had those, right? The agenda you're gonna do, some of the discussion items, so people could kind of brainstorm and think about it.
Right.
All right, what that prevented was a couple different things. One, everybody's a little bit better prepared, everybody's on the right street, not the wrong block, right? And everybody knew what direction we were going that evening.
Correct.
Okay? All right, and the other thing was that, any new items or stuff like that, could take place. And guess what it also did? It took a 2-hour meeting and reduced it down to a 45-minute meeting. All right? Because everybody wasn't like guessing and passing paperwork and the point is Corey, I think, has done a fabulous job, worked really hard at what he's done. There is no doubt in my mind that he hasn't put his heart and soul into it. He just doesn't seem to have sometimes the time, A, B, the organizational skills to put it together, and he needs some mentoring, which I know that you were doing. But the point is people who are used to getting things done that you put on this board, all right, saw this. Look,
I agree with a
we
lot
were
of
a
what you're
gerbil
saying.
running around in a frickin' cage. you know? And so what happened is that right away, professional people or people that wanna get things done say, this isn't for me, I'm out of here.
I agree with what you're saying, the only place I would differ is with the situation and with the changes and with the board having different outlooks. I don't think I could have done a better job than Corey. okay? It was such
There was a
a
lot of healthy discussion.
fragmented, and people, they were lining up on different sides, and, I mean, it really became a mess.
Well, we know what the side
And
was.
nothing was getting done.
Quite honestly, it was Cruzy's side or no side, you know what I mean?
I don't think so. I don't think that was ever the case.
Okay.
I don't,
He wasn't involved in this as he was with other projects. for
He
sure.
wasn't even at half the meetings when he was village council president, he didn't show up to half of them. Maybe.
I'm not talking about the meetings at the meeting, I'm talking about other meetings outside the meetings.
I'll tell you what, I think it's pretty neat that we're sitting here all trying to figure out how we can volunteer our time for the village. Yeah, should I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I'm trying to figure out how I can have one less dinner with my wife each morning. Yeah. But I mean, that's a good thing, that's people that care about the village. So,
You're right.
Yeah,
And
that's why I think that if we do nothing, if we could keep them the same and just.
What I'm saying is, if it was better organized, kept to an agenda, prepared properly, I wouldn't mind it being built.
Well, it's only been a DDA for 60 days.
What I'm saying is, I wouldn't mind that.
right.
But if it continues the way it did last year, I'm not interested.
Well, I'm not either.
You know what I'm saying?
No, well, no, I agree.
And
I
it
think,
has nothing to do with the merger of planning commission.
no,
It
I
has to
agree.
do with, what do I think would be best to have a tight nucleus of people who are committed, okay? Right? Not well-intentioned people. I've been around a lot of really well-intentioned people. that-
Well, we've spent, up till December, when they approved the DDA, we spent all that time just going round and round and round trying to get it set.
Yeah, and
We've
I'm-
actually been a DDA for 60 days. And of those 60 days, we've been for 60 days told that the DDA may not exist. So if you're looking for why things are not happening, or it may not exist as
See,
it
I
does
don't know if
today.
it's a DDA not existing, if it's combined with the plan.
Well, no, you're right, it wouldn't exist as it does today.
I'm just trying, I'm
So-
just saying, is it better off to have a tight nucleus of people that are really committed, that can put the time into it, versus still having 10 members who sometimes can't really make a quorum, or something gets changed, or scheduling conflicts, or minutes not put out at the right time.
Right.
Agenda's not done at the right time, follow the agenda, blah, 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 all those kinds of things. And if you make it a little more professional, hell, I'd be in. But the point, and the only reason I thought that the small nucleus of that was just having 5 committed people. You know, it's as simple as that. I wouldn't care if you dropped the DDA down and kept it independent, but only kept it with 5 people. I think you'd probably get more done.
Well, I'd like to make a
There's something to be said for
proposal
that, yeah.
Huh?
that, I'd like to make a
I'm just saying.
proposal that the DDA recommend to the village, that we continue as separate, and we will check to see if people on the DDA would like to be part of the plan commission, and give it kind of a 9 months to just see where they both go.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, make the motion.
You have a motion, write it down, repeat it, because I don't know what exactly everything you said.
Okay.
I
Motion,
would like to make a motion that we
Right.
recommend to the village that we keep them separate. You can name them, the DDA and the planning commission, for a period of 6 to 9 months, just to see where they go. The DDA has existed as it does for 60 days. And we have a lot of great ideas, we just haven't had an opportunity to put them into.
Officially, how many members right now?
We have 8 of them, we need at least one more to have a board, to actually have a full board, we have to have a board of 9. We have 8 right now.
No. Can we change that number, or?
I think it's 9 to 12 is what's required by state law. And so, we can adjust what size we want our board to be, and I think we should,
Or the DDA have to be bigger than the planning commission?
don't know, don't not sure.
I think it's all based on the size of your community, I think, and I think that 5 is sufficient just because of the size of our community.
So what's the motion on the
Too
floor?
many people slow things down.
Tom motioned to recommend to the village to keep the DDA and the planning commission separate for 9 months.
And then to review it.
Reviewed,
There you go, all right.
I don't think it's gonna
To
take 9
reevaluate.
months.
well, it gets through the summer and the fall and
Well, give us a chance to do something.
Yeah, it takes longer than 30 days to do something, unfortunately. So do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, do you want to do a roll call vote, or should we just say all in favor? All in favor? Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed?
I'm going to
I- I-
oppose.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that you change it to a shorter time frame,
Do we have a second?
like 6 months.
Do we have a second?
I'll support that.
If I could, just gonna have discussion.
Well, the motion's already been done and
And second.
approved, so you may make a second motion, or you can get rid of the first motion.
No, that motion's been passed, he just made a motion to say that he wants to reduce the time down to 6 months. We have a second by Larry. All in favor of 6 months? All opposed? Aye. So it was-
Quick discussion on it, 9 months brings us around to the fiscal schedule for next year, closer to that, to where we make these decisions like we did for the DDA and planning commission, so if we're gonna make that move in the fall.
It's a recommendation.
Yeah,
They
Oh,
do
yeah.
whatever
yeah,
they
they do
want.
whatever they want, it's a
It's
recommendation.
just, we as a board feel that this is what we would like to see happen, that's it.
And I think it's a good idea, because really, we've only had a year to kind of get this development plan in place, and we need to, we need time to kind of move things up.
Is that plan online?
Yeah, Rachel's got it. It's with the office, I think it might be filed with the state too, I'm not entirely sure.
Probably by now, yeah.
I think so, I'll look into that actually, because it should be.
But I still think it's a good thing when people are fighting to work for the village.
Yeah, well, it is, you got people that want to be part of it and want to work, and that, I think it's a great
It's a
thing.
good thing.
All right, any other discussion regarding that? No other discussion, moving ahead. Item B, DDA skating rink. I found this on my Facebook feed, and I didn't know if we've got something going on that I wasn't aware of. Central Lake Chamber of Commerce presents first annual Central Lake Hockey Champ Tourney Skills Competition and Shootout, March 14th through noon. All skaters welcome. Individuals and two-person teams, goalies play free, rink is next to the chamber cabin. $5 per person registration helps support rink maintenance. Pick up your form of Brothers, Blue Pelican Inn, Side Door, or Adams Madams. Registration form and fee due at event. Download the form at centrallakechamber.com. Skaters, please call Melissa Z and it's got her number, to reserve your space.
Cool.
So I don't know what's going on there. It looks like they're doing a fundraiser for the DDA to help support the rink maintenance. I'm not entirely sure. I just wanted to put it out there and see if anybody had any information in regards to this.
Well, I think it's wonderful, but I wish
There was not-
they'd have notified us.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's a great thing. I
Well,
think
what
it's
happened
awesome.
is, well, what is, we just notified the village, right, because it's not the DDA, that's their project, but they don't own it.
I think the lease is with the DDA.
No,
I
that's
think,
the village and DDA.
I'll double check that, because the lease with Bachman's is with the DDA.
Well, it doesn't
not the
really
village.
matter, I love what they're doing. I
It's
just
what
wish
they're
they would have sent us a note saying, here's what we'd like to do, because I look at us being idea people. And if somebody else can run the day-to-day as
That's
volunteers to do it, I'm 100% for that.
Well, I went gangbusters for a couple of weeks, and, thanks everybody for being there from the opening.
I didn't even hear about it. Was it posted around town? 'Cause I didn't hear about the.
No, I made the sign, everybody else, somebody else was supposed to make the sign for them.
You had to go to the
Was in our
chamber meeting.
membership.
Oh.
Alright, so I had the sign made because we didn't even have a sign, and it was already said that we were gonna take care of that, and the DDA never took care of it, so I decided to go ahead and just take care of it on my own, and pay for it on my own. And so we opened up, we've had, not a ton of people, but I'd say maybe 15 kids a day or something like that, some parents, and then certain days more. And the problem is just keeping the volunteers who start off like gangbusters and then they kind of die. But what we're also having is the local community is like Steve Dawson, for example, he's out there shoveling, and doing whatever. So I just thought that, you know, maybe do something to draw a little more attention to it and just ask the council if it was okay to do it, and I guess she talked to you and yeah. I you know,
Good stuff.
yeah.
Do you know if there was an event permit pulled for it too? Because I think
If you don't
there's,
have to, it's under 200. The thing is, you know, we get 50, 60 people there and a couple of guys kind of, it's just a little skillless thing, maybe just two guys kind of skate down against the goalie
Right.
and just something to do, you know.
I think it's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
It might be kind of cool.
But I really would appreciate that, like even Bachman's, put the hose out there and somebody didn't put the hose away. I figured they would put that away for the winter, somebody could. And, you know, it just, yeah, I haven't heard from anybody at the DDA either, as have my guys out there for free.
Well, I didn't know you needed people.
Paying them fists to work at night, to run the damn meeting around and scrape it and do all that kind of stuff. But I didn't see anybody else there. So I'm real sorry that I jumped the gun on this.
On this
Yeah.
thing, well, again, I think it's just, it would have been nice that knowing.
Well, what happened is we didn't have any days before this.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, before this meeting, in other words, I didn't know we were even gonna meet this month,
No, I think that's great.
a couple days ago. So, you know, I didn't want it to be spring and doing something on the water.
Right.
No, I-
Slip and slide would be nice.
Well, we got broom hockey and everything else, and it's still too
Giant
small.
slip and
We're
slide.
thinking about doing a little, not, you know, like a 3-on-3 thing, but even that's a little bit too small for that. So. But it's worked out well.
You gotta see if we can turn it into slip and slide for the summer.
Yeah, right outside the side door, that's what we
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody turns the water on for a big guy.
Get Timmy out there.
Oh,
Well, for one, would like to thank the chamber for doing that. I think I think it's wonderful to utilize it.
I do too, I think it's,
If you can send them a note or something.
yeah, I certainly will.
cool.
Now,
Yeah, that's cool.
the funds that are raised, I mean, they're gonna go to, obviously pay for the skate, the guys that are working on it and stuff,
We're just
right?
gonna give it to the village, whatever they're gonna do.
So you're gonna give it to, you're gonna donate it back to the village?
Yeah, that's all it's for. It's not a chamber event, it's for,
But it says there's to defray the cost of something, didn't it?
Yeah, it's to, help support rig maintenance. And as far as from what I'm understanding, I mean, I'm not trying to,
no, we didn't have,
Nitpicky
there was
over.
nothing in the budget for that, so, other than just put it in.
Well, I think you had said you were gonna have your guys do it, and it wasn't a big deal, you take care of it.
Yeah,
Right, so-
it's only cost me about 3 or 4 fifths of booze.
How do you,
Yeah, some drunk flowers, that kind of stuff. But, I'm watching
Tell
out
them if
there,
they like, we're bartered, we're trading.
3
booze
o'clock
for
in the
fudge.
morning getting the snow off of it, huh?
I said, we're bartered, we're trading booze for fudge.
all right. Is there any other comments regards to that? All right, then we're gonna move on. Public comment?
I do just have a question on the second motion. Could you read that back? And I don't know who said yes and who said no. There was the first motion to do it for 9 months, and then the second one for 6.
Chris motioned,
Larry second.
Larry, seconded it, and it was four nays and 2 yeas.
So on the first one, there was 9 months, and there was 4.
4 yeas and 2 nays for the 9 months.
So with the quorum of how many? 2, 4, 6.
Out of 6 people, correct?
All right, is that everything?
Thank you.
Any board comments? Anybody have anything they wanna add?
Corey, if I can, there,
Oh,
just public comment.
Sorry, public comments.
As a council member, last month's meeting, the combination or combining of the planning commission and the DDA was the topic of the ordinances. It was tabled, I believe, motion by Leila Clark, seconded, I think, Melissa or somebody there. And there was some comments about, is everybody up to speed? Do they know for sure what's going on? Do they know the differences of them? Is everybody, and the questions I would have, listening to your guys' comments and your open talk here, was pretty enlightening, but do you truly understand the difference and the obligations of a planning commission versus the DDA, and how even though there'll be two boards, they still are going to act slightly differently? When you're dealing with zoning or as a planning commission, you are going to be the entire village as in general, and as you're making decisions as the DDA or in that, it's still confined to them certain areas. And so does everybody understand what them responsibilities are and how they work? And before you volunteer to be a part of both of them, does everybody understand it? I'm on the fence yet, I don't know. I see a lot of what Ms. Recker is saying is being very good. I don't know yet. I've read the Northern Lakes Economic Alliance's letter there. So I don't know myself yet, but I know some of the board members had concerns that one, the line of communication was open from the council to the DDA of what our plans were or what the president's plans were, along with the planning commission themselves. I think there's still some unanswered questions of will the planning commission members who are currently seated stay seated? Will they be replaced? There's a lot that I don't know and understand, but do you guys, if you were to volunteer, do you understand
Planning commission deals a lot more with technical aspects of
zoning land use? So that would be my question, or at least do the research before you volunteer would be my suggestion or my question. And hopes that that line of communication between the council and the DDA, or the planning commission and DDA, stays open. The chamber seems there's a big communication breakdown lately, and hopefully all that can get fixed and straightened out. So that was really, I just wanted to make sure that, it seemed to me as a council member, that was a big concern of why it was tabled, is that communication chain had been broken or hadn't been followed through. So hopefully that is
role and focus with that.
And that's one of my concerns, is getting involved with that. You know, all of a sudden we've got an hour-long meeting on planning commission stuff, and then the DDA comes along. You know, we've got DDA stuff, and it's a 2-hour meeting as of right now. So are we gonna find people that wanna sit there for 3 hours and do all this? I mean, you're right now the work's spread out. Many hands make light work.
If you talk true realistics here, and just the reality of things, Central Lakes Planning Commission has been very non-existent in the last bit. Last thing they dealt with was some shed issues and fencing. Well, other issues are gonna come up. It's going to happen. I mean, and that, but
Well, I'd encourage them.
what you're truly, what's, the law says we have to call a planning commission DDA, or the planning commission acts as DDA. What truly is gonna happen is the DDA is gonna meet 4 times a year as a planning commission. There's not that much to do with land use issues in Central Lake anymore, so there's a lot to consider when you do
For
that.
example, how many planning type things like that do you have every meeting? 2, 1 or 2?
Say that again, I'm not following.
How many do you really need on about a shed or this or that or whatever? Planning type.
Actually, when you get into land use issues, I think it's a lot more detailed than you wanna believe. To just go in, say a shed is a prime example when it came to Central Lake last time, you gotta define the height of them, the size of them, where they can be placed, There's a lot that goes into that when you truly get into it to know that it fits Central Lake.
Right.
No, but what I'm saying is, how many of those are on the agenda every quarter?
No, I couldn't, sometimes none, I mean, really.
Sometimes none.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So it's not like
when
a ton.
the issue
It's not gonna take up
arises.
all the time of the DDA.
And that's what I'm saying. But now, when you are getting into them issues,
Mhm.
they're lengthy. I mean, it does get into some work.
That's another thing, you think worst case scenario for as a business person that end up with a lengthy scenario that happens over like a summer months where we're trying to work on projects and set something up. You know, in the winter, it's fine, maybe we got a lengthy scenario, but just, again, to me, it just goes back to that refocused on, well, we gotta split focus between growing the downtown to a shed and zoning and research and technical data. But,
I
yeah.
think our concern.
And nobody can say it's like there's 10 times a year that you meet on some, on a certain variance or whatever. Is it 10 times? Is it 5 times? In other words, like you say,
let me go back to
some
say
months
that
you go
initially,
over.
I believe the combining of them is a good idea. I'm not against it. I don't necessarily know the logistics, how it's gonna work, but when you get into zoning issues, they're lengthy. Believe it or not,
Right.
define a fence for me.
Yeah.
Them are issues you get into. Define what the finished side of a fence is. Lengthy issues that you have to get into when that happens. And so, while I was a part of this and moving forward, I would just recommend you guys do your research before you volunteer, if that is your concern. I'm not disagreeing with Mr. Eckert. One, I think that the downtown area is a core area and it needs to look beautiful. And if he believes $12,000 is what's gonna do it, I think it's a little excessive, but I'm gonna say, let's do it. Let's make our town
If
the
the
best it
planning
can.
commission and the DDA are combined, then that person can take care of everything outside of the DDA district as well.
As long as they're not spending TIF monies. As long as we don't get into that aspect. If it's our monies that we
We're not
put in,
getting
then we
TIF money
can.
for
We
several
get,
years, so.
or better, yes, but, I'd ask you to get a clarification from Brian only on how that, because if it goes into, like, right now, I believe the fund is the DDA fund. And if so, if that money is in that, it can only be spent in the DDA area, I believe.
As far as we've found, yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna work since it's funded by
If they're
101.
combined, the planning commission takes precedence. Therefore, they can go all through the whole village,
But they-
as well as the DDA district. But the combined body is dictated by the planning commission laws and regulations, but it gives them jurisdiction over the whole village, not just the DDA district.
Now, when that comes with monies, and again, these are questions I would ask in council also, but when that comes into the fundings of things, if the village council is funding, I can understand that could go anywhere then, because it's the entire village that's doing it, but when the TIF does come into play on that, does that put a different scenario and spin on things?
Yeah, the TIF money has
Because
to
then
be
the
spent.
TIF can only be spent in the down, okay,
So,
and that
Right, I
answers
agree.
some of my questions for me, so,
Yeah.
but again, I think that,
Well, I think that's our concern, is what you're talking about, is that we all wanna be on the DDA, and if we don't have enough people on the planning commission, we don't wanna get weighed down on legal issues and how tall is the fence and how wide and which side's the right side.
right.
We wanna work on the downtown 6th block.
And I'm not trying to scare anybody on it. Again, from the council meeting, my take was that there was a broken communication. The DDA didn't know what the council's plan was. I'm hoping everybody that's settled, and I guess I'm recommending do some research if you plan on, volunteering to do that, or be all I'm saying about it.
So is everybody clear on what the differences are? Does anybody have any questions? I mean, that really boils down to, because we're gonna go into the meeting next week, and they're gonna, we're gonna put this recommendation before the village council. I'll do it in my report, or via letter, or however we do it. We'll put this recommendation before the village council, and they're gonna vote and decide on whether or not to go ahead with it or not. That's,
Right.
we need to know if anybody has any questions, if we need to ask the council anything. We've got 3 council members here. And so, if anybody's got anything, now's a good time.
I mean, on my end, just doing more personal research on the plan and what it actually,
Here's the thing, the only thing I can say to help support, whatever side of the fence you're on, is one thing you gotta do, is you gotta repair this rift between us and the chamber.
yes.
I agree.
And I think it,
I got it. Can I ask you a question on that one? Because Larry has made that same comment. How does combining the planning commission and the DDA fix something between the DDA and the chamber? Because that's the same question that Neela asked me when I first proposed this stuff to them, was you're not combining the chamber with anybody, so how does it fix the rift? if there's a broken rip there, how does that fix that rip?
Well, and I quote, Cruzy made a lot of statements that, what the heck do we even have a chamber for, we can just have the DJ. Okay? Now,
I've never heard him say that.
I know, I wasn't there, but this is a direct quote from other people who were there.
But if he did say that, he didn't understand the difference between the two.
No, no, it was
That's
just,
up to him.
it was probably bar talk or something, but
Right.
the point was,
He's
is,
you know, there.
he didn't, you know, he wanted to control the car show, you know what I'm saying? And he wanted to, you know, kind of take that away from the chamber and,
Mr. Cruzy.
yeah.
And,
And you gotta understand, there's some
You
animosity.
wanted the village to
between
take over the car show?
No, the DDA and that.
We never
I'd
talked about
like
us
to
taking
talk
over
to you
the
about
car
that
show.
outside of here, because I think your opinion's skewed on it, but.
You understand, there's
Whoa.
like three sides to
Right, every story.
Cruzy, okay?
Yeah, but there's nobody on DDA that knows what you're talking about.
Correct, correct. So what happened is guilt by association, sorry. Guilt by association is what they call it, all right?
Here's the-
There's all kinds of a rift between the two and not knowing what each other's schedules are and what they had planned versus what you guys had planned. And then also the council issues, which made guilt by association of Cruzy being on both the DDA and that, was little issues like the park,
Right.
when they were ready to do everything downtown. And they needed support of the chamber and they come up and go, hurry up, sign this. You know, we gotta get this paperwork in, you know?
Okay.
And she's like, whoa, what for, and what's it about, and blah, blah, blah. And what happened was, he tried to ramrod some things that were on their turf, sorry.
Right, right.
And so, even though he might not have said DDA, right, guess what, he's the president and he's on the DDA.
Well, if he'd have come to this board on moving the car show over to DDA, I don't think any of us would have
I don't
gone
want
for
to
that.
do the car show.
Okay, and I'd never heard that before either.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I'll tell you
I
what,
mean, there's all, what I'm saying is who knows if half of them, even the person that told me who was there, who knows if they
Well,
didn't
what I'm hearing from
Right.
who's
you,
here.
what I'm hearing from you is that the problem is now gone.
Yes.
So now we have a chamber and a
But
DDA,
we have
and
a.
both should be able to work together without a problem.
The only thing is there also is a trust thing, right, that poor Corey has been thrown under the bus as guilt by association, okay? So I think what would be the best thing is for you to then have a chat with Susie and.
A new one. We can go to the Pelican and have a beer. I'm all for it.
And I think she'd be fine. The only thing is you might be,
We did ask them to sit down and
oh, I
we chose
know.
not to.
I know.
Okay, so I mean, you know, we tried to open the door.
I know, it's like
Okay,
little
but-
kids fighting.
But I think it goes back to if, off the record, if Cruzy was the issue, there was kind of a divide between the two, he's gone. And this is more reason to give this thing 9 months and see if it doesn't just flow together.
Yeah,
Because they have two different interests,
yeah,
okay? And it'd be good if they all moved in the same direction, because
yeah.
they're looking at a much larger picture.
Yeah,
And we're looking at a more
I think
defined
so,
area.
there's no conflict about other things in people's plans and having activities and doing this and doing that. It'd be really nice if we could all play well together, and I think what it is to start this year anew, that we all have to sit down.
I think that, I agree, I think it's a great idea.
Corey and her, and to make sure, and if you want me to be there as a referee, I'll be glad to, so she doesn't rip your eyes out, but,
I'll work on it.
But the point is, we're getting along and there's a lot of innuendos and bullshit and stuff flying everywhere, fact, non-fact, fiction, non-fiction. So what I'm saying is it just turned into a big ugly soapbox kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright?
Yeah.
So now you've got people even question, hell, that's, I don't know if you've seen the news thing on the soapbox on Facebook. For Central Lake, I mean, they want to decommission the town or some shit. I mean,
Decommission was?
Town,
decommission.
Disincorporate.
Dissolve it.
unincorporated?
They had one tax, I guess they wanna merge it with the village or whatever, but, I mean, with the township. But it just, the stuff that I see, you know, it's just a bunch of people stirring stuff up. So the
Oh,
best thing is for
Something in the
all the
water.
people to get back together again and be
If we
friendly.
could get these
and-
people just to join the chamber and the DDA and the planning commission,
that'd
we'd
be
be
build
in
an
good shape.
entity towards something useful.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
am I to understand correctly, there's been letters of interest submitted to the planning commission?
Yes.
Just straight up planning, so you've got two on board right now, I know I submitted, and I heard there was at least two others. So you've got a board of 5 for a planning commission right now, without any of us moving from the DDA, so you'd have a full board, 2 full boards. I don't know, I just thought I'd.
Yeah, good point though on the chamber and the.
Alright, let's move along. Any other board comments?
Just do all.
Any other board comments?
As long as you agree with everything.
Moving on to chairman comments, I think I've said everything I wanna do. And then I make a motion that we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
I-
Alright.